What do heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, and a vastly increased chance of dying from COVID-19 have in common? Give up? Chances are the answer is hiding in your own kitchen. It's one of the deadliest chemicals in the USA. It's legal to buy, cheap, and delicious, but over time, it's deadly. Sugar is killing Americans, not quickly, but surely. Not only is it killing our population, but the socio-economic effect of medicinal intervention is placing an ever-increasing strain on our scarce resources. No end is in sight. What can we do? In my 9 years as a CrossFit instructor, with over 70,000 athletes' hours of training, I have helped countless people lose over 50 pounds of fat. Rather than teaching people how to exercise, most of my time is spent helping people change their dietary habits. As an Ironman competitor, I have had to eliminate sugar from my diet, so I understand the process and the results very well. According to the CDC, 6 of the top 10 causes of deaths in the U.S. in 2020 were from mechanisms related to metabolic syndrome and obesity, for which overconsumption of sugar is a major contributor. The top 10 causes of death in the U.S. in 2020 account for over 2.5 million people. Of those deaths, over 2 million were caused by diseases or conditions for which sugar consumption is a major factor. Today, I'd like to present to you the case for removing sugar from your diet by highlighting the effects of eating sugar on your body. First, let's look at why sugar is so damaging to our bodies. The U.S. population is getting increasingly unhealthy, and that deterioration costs everyone a whole lot of money. So it is both our physical health and our financial health that is suffering. So what is sugar, and how does it cause such carnage? The most basic question we need to answer is, what do we mean by sugar? The word sugar means different things to different people, so we need some precision in our definition. To a scientist, sugars are any monosaccharide, disaccharide, or polysaccharide. The common usage of the word sugar refers to sucrose, a disaccharide, which is a combination of a molecule of glucose and a molecule of fructose. It's the white powder at the supermarket, which is often referred to as added sugar. But for most people, it's just plain old sugar. This is our problem substance. So why is sucrose a problem? There are 2 primary reasons: visceral fat generation and insulin derangement. First, let's talk about how visceral fat is formed. When sugar enters our mouth, it evokes that wonderful sweet taste, causing the brain to release a glut of dopamine, the same effect that is felt by users of cocaine and heroin. It provides a short-lived feeling of satisfaction, but soon results in further craving. The sugar passes to the small intestine, where the enzyme sucrase cuts the bond between the molecules of glucose and fructose. The resultant glucose is the fundamental fuel for life, and it can be consumed for energy by any cell in an organism. Let's be clear, this is a good thing. When this glucose is incident upon muscle cells, a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1, is released, which causes the pancreas to secrete insulin to modulate the effect. The fructose released by this process is the issue. It can be metabolized in the liver, where it undergoes de novo lipogenesis, which literally means new fat creation. The newly formed fat is stored around the organs as visceral fat, which triggers chronic inflammation, heart, vascular disease, and obesity, to name a few. Now, let's talk about sugar's effect on insulin. Insulin is the only substance in the universe that makes mammals store fat. Once secreted by the pancreas in response to GLP-1, it controls blood glucose levels, but here's the problem. Concurrently, adipose cells accept fatty acids from the blood, which are now superfluous due to the higher glucose load. The fatty acids are stored for later use, thus increasing body fat and leading to obesity. Thus, the net effect is that sugar increases insulin levels, which triggers fat storage. The problem with chronically increased insulin levels due to excessive sugar consumption is that the muscle cells become less sensitive to insulin and therefore need more insulin to operate correctly. This insulin desensitization is known as diabetes mellitus or type 2 diabetes. Simply stated, overeating sugar leads directly to type 2 diabetes and other metabolic derangements. Lastly, let's touch briefly on the link between sugar and cancer. Let's be clear. Sugar is not carcinogenic and does not directly cause cancer. However, without going into too much detail, overweight and obesity are risk factors for cancer, providing an indirect link. There are 684,000 obesity-related cancer deaths in the U.S. each year. They are predominantly postmenopausal breast cancers and are preventable if a healthy weight is maintained. So, what can we do to prevent the effects of eating too much sugar? Well, that's simple. Eliminate it. Now, simple doesn't mean easy, so let's give you some simplified steps. Number 1, don't drink your calories. Take the diet option instead. Artificial sweeteners like NutraSweet and sucralose, they're not great, but they're better than sugar. Stevia and monk fruit extract are the best alternatives. A typical soda contains around 40 grams of sugar. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 24 grams and 36 grams of sugar per day for adult women and men respectively. Just one can is beyond your maximum, and fruit juices are equally as sugary. Number 2, read your food labels. There are 61 currently recognized synonyms for added sugar on the Hidden in Plain Sight website. From agave nectar to yellow sugar, it's hidden everywhere. The food industry knows exactly what it's doing. Now that we understand how sugar affects the onset of metabolic disease and obesity, let's look at the potential benefits. It's easy to see how cutting out most of your added sugar is advantageous. Your body composition will see an immediate benefit. In combination with better sleep and increased aerobic exercise like running, cycling, hiking, which use fat for fuel, this can be greatly accelerated. According to Ismail et al. 2019, adding resistance training, which resensitizes your muscle tissue to insulin, will maximize the effect. Insulin increases appetite, so if you eat less, you reduce sugar. This drives a reduction in caloric intake, which accelerates weight loss. A1C is a key biomarker indicating insulin levels is reduced, so any A1C reducing drugs will no longer be needed. Cut the sugar, cure your type 2 diabetes. Simple. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the entire healthcare system will be better off. According to the American Diabetic Association, diabetes costs around $17,000 per year, of which approximately $10,000 is directly attributable to diabetic care. Total diabetic treatment costs in the USA is doubling every decade and accelerating. The current estimate is that by 2032, we will have exceeded the 2020 defense budget. Given that we've spent more than the next 26 countries combined, that's a big number. Elimination of homelessness, improved infrastructure, free college tuition, welfare assistance, and sustainable energy are all potentially in our reach if we could just stop overeating sugar. In conclusion, so I've outlined the impact of sugar use. I've given a couple of simple steps to remove sugar from your diet, and I've described the health and economic benefits of doing so. So here's my challenge to you. To realize these benefits, I'm asking you to log your total added sugar intake for 30 days by doing just 2 things. Number 1, eliminate all sugary drinks from your diet. Number 2, familiarize yourself with the synonyms for sugar as listed on the UCSF's Sugar Science website. Read all of your food labels. Check for the sugar sources and make an informed decision based on those observations. You don't have to get it completely right every time, but be aware of your consumption and eliminate egregious levels of sugar in the products you consume. There is no upside to consuming sugar. It's an unnecessary and chronically dangerous chemical with no essential nutritional value. Not only are you saving yourself, but you are also helping save the health of the entire country. Where possible, just cut it out.